Hi, welcome back, Pastor Keith, for another episode of Ask Pastor Keith.
Okay.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good.
That's
Thanks.
good to hear. Well, today's question, now that cell season is starting, we wanted to ask you, for those people out there who may not know what cell group is or are new to our church, what is cell group and what is the difference between a cell group and a small group?
Okay. Very good question. Actually, we call them cell churches in our church. We believe cell church is a micro church that bricks that build up our central church, which is Church of Southland. So it is church in itself. It's not a Bible study group. It's not a prayer group. It's not a support group. It's not an accountability group. You know, but it could be all and more than all of those, because this is where people actually live the biblical principles or things that we talked about on Sunday. It's like a little laboratory or greenhouse, if you want to call that. So while we hear, we regurgitate the sermon in our gathering, and not to discuss about it, but to talk about how to implement them in our own lives. And so that's the place that we actually think about, talk about how to apply these things in our lives. And if we cannot really digest the principles or biblical principles that we talked about on Sunday in that place in order to apply, then it's most likely that we are going to go to another week, forget about the sermon, and the Word of God really does not have any bearing in our own lives. It's just another sermon, another Sunday. We are not building anything. So we know in the book of Acts, when church first began, it was a mega church, right? 3,000 new believers and Solomon's portico. And after that, Bible says very clearly, people actually went house to house, small groups and cell churches. Basically, that's where they broke bread. Broke bread means having meal together at the same time. And in Christians' culture, it is communion. So it is the worship and the apostles' teaching that began in a temple court was followed by smaller micro churches or the cell churches, home to home. And people actually lived their Christian life there. That's the model that we are going after. So in that way, our church is cell church-based church. It's not another program that we do. It's something that we use it and not use it. It's not that. Our church is actually based on cell church paradigm. And then Sunday is where we come together to worship as a corporate worship, where we talk about the Word of God and how to apply it in our lives and receive ministry. But in the cell church is where you practice your spiritual gifts and you get ministered and you minister to people. There's actually interaction going on, spiritual interaction going on. So if you are competent in there and also confident about your spiritual footing, it's more likely that you are going to live that truth outside of cell. In other words, you are seeping into the world. Right? That's why cell church is a very, very important element of our church. It's actually a backbone of our church. A lot of marriages been saved through cell churches. A lot of healings came, a lot of encouragement, restoration in relationships. So many things have happened through a cell. So if people come and just attend, let's say, big worship and go home and not part of cell, they're missing the real gem of our spiritual journey. And this is where we actually get to live and experience. Cell church is not perfect. There's going to be some friction, misunderstanding. This is where forgiveness is practiced. This is where acceptance is practiced. This is where we do not consider our relationship as disposable. But this is where, even if our relationship went through a difficult time, this is where other brothers or sisters come along and to restore that relationship. so that we can grow and mature as people of God. So therefore, it is very important element of our Christian journey.
Yeah, so it seems like cell group is such a vital part of our faith, and being in that community, being in that kind of small church that you mentioned, the cell church.
Right.
And so how would you encourage someone who may still be on the fence about joining these cell churches, these cell groups? And how would you encourage that person to join in what God is doing in these cell groups?
I just told you. You gotta join. You're missing out big time. And people who, I mean, our lives, we go through seasons and all that. You'll be surprised how these cell brothers and sisters come along when a person is going through, let's say, difficult challenges, either health or relationship or marriage or even parenting issues and whatnot. It is where the support and it is where encouragement and the prayer is done. So if you're not part of it, our church size is not the largest, but it is up to a certain size. So it is very difficult to expect that kind of thing on Sunday only or even Friday prayer. This is where our faith is lived in cell. So I would definitely not only encourage, but strongly encourage that this is where you're gonna grow, right? And so it's like you put in and you receive so much through there. If you just come to worship, listen to sermon, you forget that right away. Most of it doesn't accumulate in you. Your values and worldviews do not change as a result of it. But when you are part of cell church, that is drive in. People are talking about it, and the things that we cannot do in sermon is a dialogue. It's people with the different circumstances, situations, trying to apply biblical principle in their lives, and that kind of opens eyes for many people because our experience is limited, and there are many different experiences that coming along and giving a perspective to biblical principle. So. Definitely. This is a place that you want to be.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Pastor Keith, and giving your insight on cell groups. And we encourage everyone out there to please go and join a cell group as cell season has started.
Please do.